How to move abroad. This is part of the series of expats fleeing their countries, part three. How to move abroad from the UK, how to start a new life. If you would like to move abroad and start a new life, you can. If you want to move abroad from the UK, it's easier than most countries. First, let me start with legally living in another country. One major reason that keeps people from leaving their own country is the false belief that they have. That is the only thing that is holding them back. Many years ago, a friend of mine said, "In order to live in another country, you have to be rich." Well, this simply is not the case. What is also not the case is you don't need to be a refugee or to be in a queue for people where there is a limited number from your country to be accepted. Here are some examples of requirements for a couple of countries. You can be sure that there are others like this too. If you are moving from the UK and want to live in the EU, you can do so without any hassle. You can work, collect your pension, buy a home, or rent without any problem at all. If you move to Cyprus, and if you are from another EU state, you have a legal right to move and work there. But I want to write about those who come from North America, for example. All you need to show is that you have 12,000 euros in the bank and have a health insurance coverage. That is it. Moving abroad to other countries, all you need is a work visa, pay the small fee, and you can come and go for a whole year and just renew it each year. Some countries it may be hard to do this, while other countries it's easier. Many, quote, second world, unquote, nations, people do this if you slip them some money or if the private visa agency that handles your paperwork does it. This is the advantage of working in a country like that. If you are from outside the Commonwealth nations, you will be on the same footing as citizens from other nations. Other nations like Ecuador, all you need to do is get a permanent residence is to own property worth $100,000 or more. You might have to sell your home. If you have a home worth $300,000, you spend $100,000 and get a home just as nice and just as big for one third the money. Then all you do is renew your visa, which costs about $100 a year. After 10 years, you'll be entitled to get a passport from that country. A side note, laws change and prices change, so you have to check with the people in the know about the country you are going to. But the above are real examples. Other countries, you may have to buy a government bond or you may have to invest in a business in order to live there permanently. So it's much easier to live in a country than you thought. Moving from country to country. If you don't have the money to meet the requirements or you simply don't want to buy a home as you're not sure of the political situation in that country, there is another way to live abroad for as long as you need to. That method is simply moving from country to country. Most countries allow you to live there for 3 months on a tourist visa. Other countries allow up to 6 months, while others you just have to renew it every month. The most typical example you'll encounter is you have to move. If you move to South America, for example, you can live in Argentina, then move to Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, Brazil, and back to Argentina. The reason why I have 5 countries listed instead of 4 is assuming that each country allows you to stay there on a tourist visa for 3 months. You don't want to cut it that close. Depending on how each nation counts their month, you'll be left with a few days at the end. So when you go back to Argentina, they'll tell you it has not been a full year and refuse you entry. Then you'll have to add cost to traveling to another country, and you'll probably lose your deposit on where you intend to stay. So that is why you should go to another country. In one of those nations allows you to stay longer than 3 months, then you won't have to travel to that fifth country. The above is assuming each of these nations allow you a 90-day visit. If that is the same for four nations, that means it will only come to 360 days before you end up in the same nation. This is not one full year, 365 days, so you'll be refused entry. Whatever your moving plans are, check to see how long you are allowed to stay on a tourist visa and make your plans accordingly. There are many places in the world where the nations are close to each other, so the cost to travel there is cheap. Here is a real example. A flight from Poland to Holland is only $10. A flight from Poland to Paris is 20 with a return, which you don't have to use. When you do plan to travel to another country, you will want to make reservations on where to stay. Living like this can be cheap if you do it right. If you don't mind staying in a hostel, you can stay from $7 to $10 a night. That only comes out to $300 a month. Some of these places include breakfast. You can also look for a short term rent and see if that is cheaper than a hostel. You can also camp out part of the time. This way of life allows you to live in another country without meeting the cost of buying a home. Living in a hostel has other advantages, and they include people you can talk to in your own language, someone to hang out with, safety in numbers, finding out facts about the country from fellow travelers. Electricity is included. You have free internet, maybe breakfast included. If you don't like living in a dorm with all these smelly feet and BO, most hostels also have private accommodations with a private bath that are still reasonable. You can find them for $20 a night, which is still cheaper than renting and a lot cheaper than a traditional hotel. There you can read and go on your computer in private. Think of staying in a hostel like this. If you were to rent a flat for 3 months, it might not include furniture, electricity, Wi Fi, security, and someone to talk to in your own language or their second language if it's in English. You are not alone as the only gringo in the area. In a hostel, you have people to talk to and find out more about the country, the best places to go and where not to go. You have a lounge to read and relax. There might even be books to read and to exchange your old books. Many hostels offer free coffee or tea, or do so at breakfast time. So the advantages are many. Some hostels allow you to work there in exchange for free room and meals. Therefore, your costs are reduced. Remember to plan the countries you are going to, make the hostel reservations, then plane reservations. Mark this down on a calendar so you leave the country before your visa expires. You don't want to be barred for 10 years because you overstayed your visa. as you might plan to be there next year. When you live like this, you can continue living in this loop as long as you like. Hostels are usually located in scenic areas or in the center of a city. You can then live in a beautiful area of the country and explore that. If you were to rent, you can still do that, but you will still be paying rent. In a hostel, you just pay for the nights that you are staying there. Make sure that you book well in advance as hostels fill up fast, even in off seasons. Here are two sites to check out: hostelworld.com and booking.com. That's Booking. There you can see how the hostels looks inside and out and get an idea if you want to stay there. Also look at the ratings it has. Hostelworld.com gives you ratings such as best in Ecuador or best in South America, etc. I hope this video will make it easier how to move abroad from the UK or any other country. Until next time, take care.